Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or as we have sort of shortened that title for you, IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And as part of our efforts to support play, we've introduced Porch Play Chat. So we are nearing 300 of them. They are all free to you, and they are on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, friend us on Facebook if that's what we do on Facebook. I can never remember. And magically, every Monday morning, a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm a co-president of IPA USA. And with me on the porch is Erin Tanzer. Erin, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Deb.
It's so good to see you again. Erin
Yes,
was with us in Kentucky, and so we have been sort of reminiscing about how much fun we had there.
yes,
Um, Erin enjoys working with experienced and aspiring early childhood professionals to create playful and connected learning environments. Her areas of interest include playful pedagogy, a higher education, transformative leadership in early childhood, place-based education, nature-based early childhood education, inquiry-based approaches, which I'll have to talk to you about because we just did this yesterday in my curriculum and assessment course,
great.
and
Yes.
outdoor risky play pedagogy. Her experience in the field includes teaching in postsecondary higher ed, teaching in Reggio-Emilia-inspired and nature-based early childhood settings, designing project-based curriculum. I mean, really, we need to talk more. And
For sure.
facilitating educator professional development. And so, I mean, it's almost like we're twins working in the classroom because yesterday we did inquiry, emergent, and integrated curriculum.
hmm
And what's the difference and why would we do this and blah 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 around projects. So Erin's conversation with us today is all about young children's perception of outdoor risky play. And I really can't wait to hear this because I know what teachers' perception of risky outdoor play is, but sometimes hearing it from the children gives sort of a eye-opening um, aha moment for teachers. So please share with us, what are children saying about this?
Great. Well, thanks for teeing that up perfectly because the reason I got interested in this was because of what you just said, that we have a pretty good understanding, thanks to our amazing field of research. We have a pretty solid understanding of how educators feel about it and some of the barriers that they encounter when they're supporting young children in outdoor risky play. But we have very limited insight into what children think and feel and wonder about that and what their perception is. And I come to, this work truly from this early childhood lens, which Deb, soul sister, I feel you there, um, of, the strong image of the child, that children are inherently capable and competent, and that it is our role as educators to know that and support that and help them further develop. So knowing that children have knowledge, they are capable, what do they think about that? And how can we ground ourselves back into a child-led risky play pedagogy that truly is reflective of what the experience is for them versus what we think and perceive that it is for them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of the framing of that. Before I go further, I just wanted to know what you thought about that initial piece. Feeling good?
Yeah. Oh no.
Great.
I think it's fascinating. And sometimes I worry, and this is just my inquiry.
Yeah.
Sometimes I worry that children's initial comments might be based on their experiences when people have been too cautious with them. Oh, don't do that. You'll fall. Oh, don't do that. You'll
Mm-hmm,
hurt yourself.
mm-hmm,
Don't do
mm-hmm,
that. And not feel the freedom
mm-hmm,
to explore in that nature-based setting in the
mm-hmm,
way that maybe they want to on the inside, but
mm-hmm.
are fearful of due based on their experiences.
Absolutely. And that sentiment was something I really had in mind when I was approaching this research that I did, really thinking about the role of the researcher in that, and consequently, what is the role of the adult in supporting young children. And
Mm-hmm.
in my work, I was working with children during risky play, so they were already engaged in it. And so asking them, tell me more about what they were feeling, what they were wondering while it was going on. And so that really helped me to get into it for them versus what they might have been told they should say, or felt like they had to say.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
Right. We want
yeah.
those authentic responses, not the where they feel like they have to answer the right question, right? It has to be answered
Exactly.
in the correct way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
So
can
what
you
I
tell me what ages you did
yeah,
when
so
you
my
were
my work was with 4-year-olds.
oh
Um, yes, I know.
no.
And they were all, fairly like middle of the road as far as their risk propensity was concerned, and they were able to play with risky play with others without a lot of adult intervention,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like as a researcher I was able to be with them. And as you know, in early childhood you get roped in right away. I'm
Oh, of
objective
course.
play researcher, but also they're like, Erin, can you please hand me that bucket? You're clearly not doing anything useful. So that kind
I
of
don't know
piece.
why you're here.
Right.
But
Um, so,
this is what I need.
yeah. And so for context for this, it's important to know that this group of children, was pretty capable of managing themselves, to a degree. And so, I'm not talking about children that are like particularly like uninterested in risk. And I'm not talking necessarily about children who have a high propensity or desire for risk. This is kind of like middle of the pack, if you will.
And so
And
how long, so here's another question,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah,
I'm very
yeah.
interested in this topic. How
Of course.
long have these children been experiencing that setting?
Hmm.
And were like, was it their second year there? Was it, because as they have more and more experience, they get more and more comfortable, right?
Hmm.
So, and they might try more and more risky things, which we really want to encourage.
Hmm.
So, how long have they been together as a group,
Hmm.
or in a setting that was
Yes,
nature
so
based?
they were, you got me right there. They were in their year two because
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see, how might they feel and wonder about risky play having a year of experience in a setting where it's supported,
Mm-hmm.
and then getting those perspectives on it versus like the fresh threes, like we like to call them, who
Mm-hmm.
everything is brand new for. Yeah, so that was my group. And what I'd like to start with is it's kind of what I made at the end of my research, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it helps us to think about this really from their perspective. And what I'm going to share with you is a poem. It's a cluster poem, and it is made with the process called poetic inquiry, which is a
Mm-hmm.
method of understanding your data in a qualitative realm. So you take the juicy bits, the data, the words that children said, and you take all of that and arrange it into a poem that helps to share the collective experience of the children in a
Mm-hmm.
way that really captures their words and holds their words with fidelity, because this
Mm-hmm.
is about their perspective,
Right.
and then presents that to the adult mind and the adult heart in a way that moves us,
Mm-hmm.
and
I
reminds
love
us.
it. This
Yeah.
needs to
So,
go in the Playful Ponderings
oh, yes,
online
I need to
journal.
make that happen. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Let's.
Okay, just so you know, this
Yes.
this is this is already powerful. I can feel it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that would be a wonderful way to share it. And I'll read it. And I just wanted to add one more thing, which Deb, as an early childhood educator, heart to heart, I have always been inspired by the Reggio-Emilia philosophy, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly the poem by Malaguzzi, The Hundred Languages of Children. And
Mm-hmm.
so I, with great humility,
Mm-hmm.
please know, was really thinking like, could I make some kind of, in this case, poetry for us, for our colleagues, for practitioners that's about risky play in the same way that the 100 languages moves me to think
Mhm.
about, the image of the child. So the why and the what it really is for them. So that was
Mhm.
kind of what I was going for.
I love it. I can't wait. Let's do it.
Yes. Can I read it to you?
Oh,
Yay.
please, please, please,
Okay.
please.
Okay. So this poem is called "And I'm Not Sure Feeling." I feel safe, proud, silly, okay, happy. I feel dizzy, soft, good, like it tickles, like I'm out of breath. I don't have a word for this feeling. Might I fall? Do I need a spotter? Do you think I can do this? Will it hurt? Am I going to die? I feel like I might need you to hold my hand. I don't want to jump. I want to stop. Did I just become not safe? I'm not safe. I feel it. I'm not sure feeling. Are they scared? Are they safe? Will they get hurt? Are they stronger because they eat steak? Are they stuck? Will the rope break? Will the wood break? How can I hold this up so it doesn't fall? Where is my rocket booster? We are really making a plan. Where should I jump? Are we pushing or are we pulling? When are those leaves going to turn yellow? Does it look good? I feel like I'm going to stand up and jump. I got this. We got this. I am an expert. I did it. That surprised me a little bit. I need to come down, actually. I'm back where I started.
Oh my goodness. That is so beautiful. And I think what I heard so much in there are positive dispositions of learning, right?
Mm-hmm.
With sort of a step back and analysis of their environment and what they're currently doing and whether or not they were safe. But they were asking themselves that,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a powerful thing versus us always telling them that's not safe. Don't jump off the playground equipment. Don't run on the sidewalk. Don't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. And so just the words that they had in that and talk to us about how long the research was and how long you were
Yeah.
embedded with them and
Mm-hmm.
how often you heard those same words over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about.
Absolutely. So those words, some of them were, you know, used many, many times. Some were used a few times.
Mhm,
And I tried to highlight some of the more precise and specific words that children were using,
mhm,
because I think that shows us that they have this tremendous capacity to
mhm.
understand emotions and how to describe them when given the
The
opportunity
opportunity.
to that, or when we do some of that pre-teaching or modeling for them of what are the emotions besides happy, sad, and mad.
Mhm,
um, you know, so some of the words were used a lot, some were used a little bit, but overall, what I found was, their feelings were, they felt good when they were playing, they felt
mhm,
scared, and then there was a variety of feelings that demonstrated self-awareness and
mhm,
receptiveness and togetherness, which I
mhm,
think you're hearing in that. And
mhm,
then what they were wondering about while they were playing was safety and risk and inquiry. So
mhm,
as you mentioned, they, when I asked them what they were wondering about, so much of what they were wondering about was their safety and their next move and the environment around them and what
mhm,
might happen if,
mhm,
and and also their wonderings about their own capabilities with the risk, like am I ready for this, like can I do this, and if I can't, can I have your support, so
mhm.
that was the piece of risk they're thinking about. And then regarding inquiry, there's this one line in there about like when are those trees going to turn yellow. um,
Yes.
that's an interesting one to describe, in that this child was like spinning around at a rapid pace that would make any adult not comfortable, um, physically or just to watch it. And on this
Mhm.
tire swing that they had
Oh yeah.
made. by the way.
Oh,
And I said, "What are you wondering about?" And as she's like spinning in this motion, she goes, "I'm wondering when those leaves are going to turn yellow." Talking about a tree that was,
wow.
she was looking at it, but doing this other thing.
Hmm.
And it was just fascinating to me. And there are other examples of ways that children were wondering about how things work, or what happens if I do this thing, or what is this made of? All those like really juicy inquiry
Mm.
pieces and those play schemas and all the stuff that we love to dig into. I was hearing that from them. So I hope that answers the first part of your question. And then as far as the time that I was with them, I was with them for a month during
Mm.
all their outdoor play.
Hmm.
And that outdoor play took place in a play area at an early childhood center that does have risky play affordances, meaning that
Nice.
they have opportunities for children to engage in risky play, and they have a strong risky play pedagogy as part of their teaching practice. And so being there for a month, you know,
Oh, I can't even imagine.
so
What
rich,
fun. So
you know.
rich. Well, and
Yeah.
I think the other piece that for 4-year-olds, some of that language was pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
Because they were able, but the other thing that I was really hearing from them is that self reflection of what they were feeling and their current situation, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have this one spinning that we would be throwing up after she had
Mm-hmm.
done it for a while. And then, what are you wondering about? I'm wondering when those leaves will turn yellow. She was so, that's what she was wondering about. Not, should I stop? Am I going too fast? Am I going to throw up? None of those. That's so, I love hearing children, listening to them, because they have such rich capacity that we don't give them time to express when we're directing them all day long.
Exactly. Exactly. And I hope that, I hope that's a outcome of this for people. If they read this poem, they think, if they get anything out of it, it's like, maybe I should listen more to children. Maybe I should
Mm-hmm.
ask them more questions and be more present.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we start to reappreciate, or maybe appreciate for the first time, what they are feeling and wondering, that deepens our practice, and it changes how we work and how we work with other educators. And
Mm-hmm.
so hopefully that kind of lights that spark. One thing I want to mention too about the poem and the other data. So my methodology was also very respectful of children's capabilities, and there was participatory research with children. And some concrete examples of what that looked like was, I wrote up the observation stories of each of children when they were engaged in these different risky play activities. And then I met with each child and interviewed them and showed them the observation story and watched the videos with them, and asked them those same questions of, what are you feeling? What are you wondering? To one, make sure that what they said when it was happening,
Mm-hmm.
they still meant that. And also to see if they had anything to add when
Mm-hmm.
they saw it again. Um, and then, so I was able to confirm, that data with each child. And then with this poem that I read to you, I read it to them as well
Oh,
and asked them for feedback. And, does this feel right to you? And it was amazing to see, there's a couple key quotes in there, like, I wonder if they're stronger because they eat steak. Like, that's a good one. The
I
rocket
love that
booster,
one.
the leaves, some of these more like specific, juicy examples. And the kids were able to be like,
Oh, just, oh my goodness.
yeah.
Well, I bet they were thrilled to see, because they don't see themselves playing, right? They see maybe photographs that their parents
Mm-hmm.
take somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe if the program is more Reggio inspired, hopefully documentation panels
Mm-hmm.
where they're documenting their experiences. But that has to be so validating for them that you were asking if you had gotten it right, or if they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to add anything. I think
Yes.
that's beautiful. Think how powerful that made them feel, that they
Mm-hmm.
could contribute and be listened to and respected, and wanting the adult wanting to make sure they got it right. just all of those. Oh, I have
Yes.
chills all over my body.
Good. And there was times where I read the observation story to them and they said like you missed something or that's not what I meant. And so I did go back and edit
Hmm.
that and got it right. Ran it
Hmm.
through them again. And that was amazing when the kids was thinking, oh, she actually did it. She's back to ask me if she got it right this time.
And
And
she
I
listened.
yeah, and I
Oh my goodness.
listened. And
Think of
and so that
think of their
role,
self-esteem, right? And their
yeah.
feeling of confidence
Hmm.
in and their courage and saying, no, you got that wrong.
Hmm. Yeah, and I said, thank you for telling me. I appreciate your feedback. I will get back to you with a revised copy tomorrow.
Hmm. Oh my goodness. I
And
bet
that
they
role, yeah, that role of the researcher and the adult, like part of what was so meaningful to me was to really match this methodology with the goal of the study, which I know is what we do in research, but really thinking, how can I be as grounded in this strong image of the child, in this child-centered pedagogy that I'm hoping to contribute to and develop? How can the way I do this research really mirror that? And so
Mhm.
really everything I thought of was, is this being, true to children's perspectives? Am I amplifying their words and elevating their perspective? How do I know and how will I do that? And so that was sort of my compass,
Mhm.
through the work. And so it was remarkable for the children to see a researcher who
Mhm.
engaged with them in that way. And, likewise, that role of the adult, I was able to model that play researcher piece, which we all have in us as
Mhm.
practitioners in the field. And
Mhm.
so I often looked like a teacher because that's how you act in an environment like this. You're supporting children and you're helping them and you're stepping back as needed. Yeah, so that role of the adult, I think, was really powerful for them, and they did feel respected and heard by me.
And so, at, as I'm reflecting again
Yeah.
on what you're saying, the role of the adult in that environment in supporting, stepping back, being
Mm-hmm.
there if they asked,
Mm-hmm.
instead of intruding if
Mm-hmm.
they're and really, I mean, I have seen teachers say, and the child like is petrified there for a minute. I think
Mm-hmm.
those that observer, the characteristics of the observer would also help teachers, how in the play work
Mm-hmm.
field, they'll say, how are you feeling? If a child is climbing a tree all the way up, they're not saying, stop, you're too high. How are you feeling? Well, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard
Mm-hmm.
I've heard children say, I'm good. And then the play worker steps back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that difference in the way that we respect, encourage, support, and ask questions instead of
Mm-hmm.
scaring them or telling them they can't do that because they're not ready. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like you need to say, if you're doing these things,
Mm-hmm.
these are this is sort of what you might be seeing. Because I
Mm-hmm.
I hear teachers all the time tell me, oh, my kids can't do that. And I'll say, how do you know? Right? How do
Mm-hmm.
you know they can't do that? Oh, well, they're too young, or they just learned to walk, or they
Mm-hmm.
can't possibly as an infant go up the upside down wooden boat, right? They can't possibly climb up that and go down on their bellies. They're going to hurt themselves. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
that's not been
How,
my experience. If you let them try it, they're
yeah, how
learning.
how do we know that?
How is
Um,
that?
how we think that, but how do we know that? And there's so much to this, but I think my takeaway is, it can be a huge, huge leap for an educator to imagine themselves
Mm-hmm.
letting kids do stuff. And so I think one of my main recommendations is engage with intentionality with
Mm-hmm.
children. And that does require like reshaping and reconfiguring what our role is with when children are engaged in outdoor risky play. It's not
Mm-hmm.
supervisory.
No.
it is an opportunity for learning. It is so rich for children, and I think an amazing teaching practice for an educator, because if we
Hmm.
truly do see ourselves, as a co-learner, as a facilitator of children's learning experiences, how are we modeling that in our language and in our action and in how we engage with children? And outdoor risky play is the perfect place to try that out and see, are you doing what you say you do? And that does involve a shift and a change in how we plan for that time. It's not a break.
It's
It's
not a break, right?
no. And what I saw with the amazing myriad of emotions that children feel and their wonderings that are related to risk and safety and inquiry, that's the prime like setup for learning. you know
Yes. Oh
they
my
are
goodness.
they are emotionally invested, they are engaged, they are embracing the entire experience all the way through, from
Hmm.
eek to yeah, which helps them to trust themselves that they can get through feelings that are complicated and messy, and you know rise up. And then they're also so open-minded and receptive and willing to engage in that uncertainty. And so I think with that emotional awareness and that willingness to be uncertain, that's where learning happens.
Hmm.
We're setting that up. And so what a
Exactly.
great way to engage children. And well, what are you wondering about? Tell me more about that. I think if we can see outdoor risky play as this meaningful, truly rich experience for young children, which it is, and then our role as
Hmm.
adults is to you know engage meaningfully and support as we can, then that just in turn like feeds this amazing learning culture in a program. So that's kind of where I'm thinking we should go with
Yeah.
this.
And I absolutely agree. And I think that sometimes because, safety seems to have just been drilled into us over and over and
Mm-hmm.
over again, where we're just way too safe these days and don't
Mm-hmm.
give children those opportunities to take a risk. And we're not
Mm-hmm.
talking nails sticking out of the playground equipment or,
No.
stuff that is a
Mm-hmm.
hazard that children might
Yeah.
not see or be able to handle. We're
Mm-hmm.
just talking risks, letting them
Mm-hmm.
challenge their physical body, letting them understand what their
Mm-hmm.
capacity is, when they've climbed too high and they need to start coming back down, how they got there, how they get back down, instead of going and lifting them off the tree or, taking them down on their with really probably without them even asking you to.
Right.
So, you
Right.
know,
And that message we give to them when we do that is, I don't believe in you.
yeah, I don't think you can do it.
I
I'm
don't think
gonna
you
I'm
can
gonna
do
be
this.
the safety person for you.
Yeah.
Which
And also, like, you have to nail it every time.
yes,
Like, you
right,
can only do this, you can only try this hard thing one time and do it to perfection.
right.
That's
What person can possibly do that? We have to
with
practice and
with
practice.
anything in life, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm
Yes.
fumbling my way through life, Deb. I don't know about you, but you know?
You're always testing your next boundary or pushing stuff, we hope. And
Yeah.
and so for teachers, one of Erin and I are very much into inquiry emergent curriculum, right? We don't
Yes.
in my classrooms with students, I in the curriculum and assessment course, I we talk about what are the common themes, right, that you
Mm-hmm.
typically see in a 3 to 5 year old
Yeah.
program that you may have experienced in kindergarten or first grade. In each month, what are the common themes? And so and what's so beautiful about this is we just did this yesterday, right? So, and this is because yesterday was our first day. So,
Yeah.
and I've had these students before, so they know how
Amazing.
crazy I am in teaching. So anyway, they're so busy. I put up, September, all the months of the year, all the way through to August. And I said, just brainstorm. What are some common things that you may have experienced or that you may have um, implemented in a classroom. And so, all they worked on it for 20, 25 minutes. And they kept looking at me every time they wrote something up to see if I liked it. And I said, just keep going. What are those common themes you may have experienced? And so then, because they have a huge assignment that's due tomorrow or Sunday, then we watched a short video on what are the characteristics of inquiry. And they took notes. And then after each video, I said, okay, what did you learn about inquiry? And so then I would write up on the whiteboard all the characteristics that they had had. And then we did the same thing with an emergent video. And then we did the same thing with an integrated video. And they were each like 10 minutes long. So we had plenty of time. And then at that point was the reflection. How does what we just did as an activity and watching these 3 videos and identifying the characteristics of each one of these approaches, how does that relate to what you did on the whiteboard? And they said, absolutely nothing relates to what we did. I'm like, a great learning opportunity, right? And something that helps them, they put the work up there, I didn't, and helps them recognize that, oh, there are other ways to do curriculum than for the teacher to come up with a theme. Because we move toward Reggio-inspired provocations, invitations, developing a study based on what they hear children are interested in. And I think those are ways to get them out of the mindset that what was done to them may not have been the most effective, right? I mean, anytime I ask them, why do you hate math? I don't know if your students hate math as much as my students hate math, but they hate math. And they, of course, have to take 2 courses in math. and so we talk about that. Well, what was your experience with math? And then, those 1 minute, how many problems can you add or subtract? And the homework and the math book when they got home after they don't like math anyway. And so then we talk about, so how could you build on children's interest in math by integrating it into everything you do during the day? Why does it have to be a subject that's 90 minutes or 120 minutes long? And so then that sort of gets them prompt into what could I do different? And then we move on from there. But it is amazing how those early experiences, which might be experiences about risk, might be experiences about challenging your body, and might be experiences where people said you weren't safe, that have influenced our current teacher candidates to be even more cautious and safety focused, instead of putting some risk in an infant room, just having a different level that's like this high. It's a risk for an infant. Yeah.
And I have some things to add on to that around so it's important to remember that it's perception of risk. And so if you have risky play affordances, whether that's features of the natural environment or loose parts that kids can move and manipulate, they can create their own just right dosage of the risk that they are needing and wanting. And so when you provide that, you are essentially giving them the tools to scaffold for themselves. And so for one child, it's going to be this high. Another child is going to be in, a milk crate, or whatever. And it's their perception of it. And I think that's important for educators to remember. This isn't we're all going to do the hardest version of this.
No.
We can predict that children are going to seek out risky play because they need it to develop. So if we know that, we can plan for that a little bit by figuring out how the environment can support that, how we make it as safe as as possible, or
Mm-hmm.
as safe as necessary for them in that
Yeah.
moment, versus thinking like, well, I must protect against all, possible outcomes. It's like, well, let's see what is really needed here. And the other piece, I guess, my tip for educators, or when I think about the teaching that I'm doing with my students, is, you know, how can you engage children in risk assessment in the process with you, and have that be part of your routine?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is amazing tool for yourself as an educator,
Mm-hmm.
um, and for them to start getting that vocabulary and to start working with you on that. It doesn't have to be like everybody all at once, but it's like, hey, let's take these two kids and let's have a conversation. Let's go look at this thing. Like, what are their thoughts about that? What might they may be thinking about? And so, if you build in this culture of collaborative risk assessment with children,
Mm-hmm.
you end up, one, learning an immense amount as an educator, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of figure out, you're like, oh, but you learn a lot about yourself, but then you also start to see their capacity again,
Yes.
and their
Yeah.
competency and their desire. They want to assess risk.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
They
yeah.
want to.
Nobody wants to fall down and get hurt.
No, they
Nobody
don't
wants that.
want to, but we're
No.
not giving them the opportunity to develop that as a
Mm-hmm.
part of their life and their learning, and we have this gift of this time with children. This is the time to do it, you know? If we can help them build their own risk assessment, their own self-knowledge, their own boundaries, we are like setting them up for success, in the sense of we're helping them become a human and in their
Yeah.
own way. And then they can be able to engage in risk and learning and hard things in life.
And feel so confident in their
Yeah.
ability, right? If we
Yeah.
if we give them the tools and
Yeah.
not interfere, they're building skills that will help them as they get
Mm-hmm.
older. It's they're going to take a risk and take a course that maybe they might have heard as difficult, right? So they're
Mm-hmm.
going to that resilience. I think it's all
Mm-hmm.
about that resilience that
Mm-hmm.
they develop
Mm-hmm.
when they're given opportunities to try things that might be scary,
Mm-hmm.
but they know that the environment, or the they can ask for support if they need it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so
Yeah.
good for them
Yeah.
to do that. It's so good for them to try something that they've never done before, and
Mm-hmm.
to say, oh, cool, I did that. I couldn't do that. I would always say on the playground when I was out with preschoolers on the monkey bars. We had monkey
Mm-hmm.
bars back then because now, you can't have monkey bars. That's too dangerous. And so they would say, I want to go on um, the monkey bars. And I'd say, okay, what's your plan? And
Mm-hmm.
they would say, oh, I'm going to climb up the five ladder things, and I'm going to climb on top of the monkey bars. I said, okay. And what are you going to do once you get up there? I'm just going to look at these things and see if they fit around my hands. So I'm going to put my hands around them and
Mm-hmm.
see how it feels before I
Mm-hmm.
try to go across the monkey bars. And so and so we would just do that over and over
Mm-hmm.
and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be like a week or 2 weeks later with a 4-year-old that I would say, you know what? You couldn't do that last week. And look what you just did. look what
Mm-hmm.
look what just happened. You just you just did that. You went through three of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And, and you couldn't do that last week. And they would just be so proud
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that they had accomplished something.
Yeah. And then that reinforces our role as we are in relationship with children.
Mm-hmm.
That is what we're here to do.
Yeah.
So, they look to us for that support and that encouragement and that hug when something doesn't go well, but
Mm-hmm.
they see us in that way, versus versus the one saying no all the time or keeping them from, doing something. And yeah, I love that example of how you scaffolded that for them, and beautiful. And it just reminds me just, oh gosh, so much. But I was gonna make a plug for Rachel Larimore and Claire
Okay.
Warden's book.
Yeah. Go
Sorry.
go back. Go down now a little bit. Okay.
I'm
Oh no,
blurring.
just tell us what it is.
Okay, well,
And
everyone should have this. Reimagining the role of teachers in nature-based learning.
there
Um,
you go.
this was really helpful, and it came out right as I was wrapping up my research, and so I incorporated as much of their recommendations for how we engage with young children outside into my research implications, because I do think it's the role of the adult, and how we support and see children and help them see themselves.
And I think we just have to reimagine. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like we need to help teachers reimagine their responsibility, right?
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
and what their role is in the classroom and supporting children by letting them have choice and play with who they want to play with as long as they want to play with that person,
Mm-hmm.
um, and move when they're ready. So it's all of those trusting children. It goes back to trusting children and giving them an opportunity to make their own decisions
Mm-hmm.
instead of having them always look at an adult. Like yesterday, when all the students would look at me, I'm like, I'm not going to tell you whether that's right or wrong. I'm saying nothing. I'm just asking you a question. What are the things that you have experienced that are common themes that you do every month of the
Yeah.
year? But
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you whether it's right or wrong. That's for you to
Mm-hmm.
figure out as we move forward, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can't give them the answers you all the time. Sometimes you have to give them the answer, but how do you spell mom? And I would say, oh, do you want to know how to spell mom? Okay. I'm wondering, is there a book that talks about moms over in the book center?
I hope
And
so.
I hope so, right? And and so they would say, oh yeah, I know one. And I'd say, why don't you go get it? So they'd go get it and bring it back to me. And I said, well, where's the picture of a mom in the book? And they would, and these are like almost 5-year-olds, and they would say, oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
right there. And I said, okay, what what sound did you hear when and
Mm-hmm.
they would say, oh, it's an M. And they would look and I'd say, oh, I think that says mother. So that's close. Yeah. Do you see
Mm-hmm.
anything that might be shorter? You know? And so it's that's your goal, right?
Yeah.
That's your role, not to
Mm-hmm.
give the answer,
Mm-hmm.
but to lead them to the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this has been amazing,
Oh, it's
Erin.
so fun, right? We could do it all day.
Yeah, we definitely have to. I need to talk to you about what I'm hoping is going to be my sabbatical. So, hang right there while I close this out. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
To
Okay.
learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.